The NICU hums with the mechanical rhythm of life support systems, a sterile symphony that should comfort me. Instead, it sounds like a countdown. I stand beside the incubator, my hands pressed against the warm glass, staring down at the infant who bears my name but not my DNA. Her eyes are green, not the muddy hazel that sometimes masquerades as green in certain light. These are emerald, brilliant, unmistakable. Neither Callie nor I have green eyes. Brown and blue don't make green, despite what some people want to believe about genetics. She's beautiful, isn't she? The nurse adjusts the monitors, her voice soft with practiced empathy. Perfect little fingers, perfect little toes. I nod because that's what fathers do. That's what Marcus Hale, architect and devoted husband, would do. But the man standing here now is calculating square footage and structural integrity, examining the foundation of a life built on lies. "Have you chosen a name?" she asks. "Sophia," I say, though Callie and I never discussed it. Sophia means wisdom in Greek. It seems fitting for the child who's about to teach me everything I need to know about my marriage. The nurse smiles and makes a note on her chart. Around us, other new parents hover over their tiny miracles, whispering promises and prayers. I wonder how many of them are staring at strangers. Callie sleeps in recovery, exhausted from 18 hours of labor. I should be with her, holding her hand, sharing this moment. Instead, I'm memorizing the angle of this baby's nose, the shape of her ears, the way her fingers curl. Evidence, documentation. The architect in me can't help but notice how perfectly she resembles Dr. Alec Winters, the man who's been working late shifts with my wife for the past 9 months. The realization doesn't hit like a sledgehammer. It settles like concrete, slow and permanent. I've suspected for months, but suspicion is just blueprints. This is the foundation pour. I take out my phone and capture a photo of Sophia's face, making sure the green eyes are clearly visible. Then I step away from the incubator and walk toward the elevator, leaving the sounds of new life behind me. In the parking garage, I sit in my car and dial a number I've already memorized. "Precision Investigations," a gravelly voice answers. "I need a paternity test," I say. "Discreet, fast, and I need to know everything about Dr. Alec Winters at Metro General." "When can you bring the sample?" I look back at the hospital, its windows glowing like a constellation. "Tomorrow." 8 years ago, I thought I'd found the woman I'd grow old with. Callie had this way of organizing chaos that appealed to the architect in me. While I designed buildings, she managed lives, other people's children, their scraped knees and forgotten lunches and parents who worked too much. We fit together like mortise and tenon joints, each of us filling the spaces the other left empty. I provided stability. She provided warmth. I handled the finances. She handled everything else. Our conversations were practical, efficient, comfortable. "I'll be late tonight," she'd say, grabbing her keys from the hook by the door. "Jenny's having complications." Jenny was always having complications. So was Maria and Sarah, and whatever name belonged to the crisis of the week. I'd heat up leftovers and work on blueprints until she came home, usually after midnight, smelling like antiseptic and exhaustion. "How was your day?" I'd ask. "Long," she'd answer, already heading for the shower. This was our rhythm for years. I convinced myself it was the natural evolution of marriage. Less talking, more understanding. Less romance, more partnership. I designed buildings that would stand for centuries, and I thought I was doing the same with our relationship. The first crack appeared 2 years ago, so subtle I almost missed it. Callie started sleeping with her phone face down. She'd check it during dinner, claim it was work, then smile at the screen in a way that made my chest tighten. "New protocol at the hospital," she explained when I asked about the increased hours. "We're trying to reduce infant mortality rates." Noble work. Important work. Who was I to question it? The second crack. She started talking about Dr. Winters. Not often, but enough that I noticed the pattern. He was brilliant, she said, dedicated. He'd stayed late to help with a difficult case. He'd brought coffee for the night shift. He'd recommended a new procedure that saved a baby's life. I looked him up. 42 years old, divorced, department head. The kind of man who looked good in scrubs and probably knew it. In his professional headshot, he had green eyes and the easy confidence of someone accustomed to being admired. The third crack was the hardest to ignore. Callie stopped touching me. Not all at once. That would have been too obvious. But gradually, like a building settling on a weak foundation. Fewer kisses goodbye. Less hand-holding during movies. When I'd reach for her in bed, she'd claim exhaustion or stress or an early morning. Maybe we should plan a vacation, I suggested one evening, watching her scroll through her phone instead of eating dinner. Can't right now, she said without looking up. Too busy at work. But she wasn't too busy to text whoever made her smile at her screen. She wasn't too busy to work late shifts that lasted until sunrise. She wasn't too busy to stop by the hospital on weekends, claiming she'd forgotten something in her locker. I should have confronted her then, should have demanded answers, insisted on counseling, fought for what we'd built together. Instead, I did what architects do when they notice structural damage. I began documenting everything, planning for the inevitable reconstruction. Because I loved her, and because I trusted her, and because I never imagined that the woman who dedicated her life to protecting children would lie to me about carrying someone else's. The DNA results arrive on a Tuesday, sealed in an envelope that weighs less than an ounce but feels like a wrecking ball. I don't open it in the office. Too many eyes, too many questions. Instead, I drive to the construction site of my latest project, a medical complex that won't be finished for another year. I sit in my truck, surrounded by concrete and steel, and tear open the envelope. Probability of paternity, 0%. The words blur for a moment, not from emotion, but from the sheer mathematical certainty. 0%. Not even a margin of error, not even a statistical possibility. Sophia is no more mine than the stranger walking down the street. I fold the paper carefully and slip it into my briefcase, then call Peterson at Precision Investigations. What did you find on Winters? I ask. Busy man. Divorced 3 years ago. Wife cited infidelity. Works a lot of nights, has a reputation for, let's call it unprofessional relationships with colleagues. Evidence? Hotel receipts, credit card charges, a few photos. Your wife's not the first married nurse to catch his attention. The photos arrive by email within the hour. Callie and Winters entering the Marriott downtown. Callie and Winters at a restaurant I've never been to. Callie and Winters in his car, her hand on his thigh, his lips on her neck. In the final photo, they're leaving the hotel, and Callie's hand rests on her still flat stomach. The timestamp shows it was taken 6 months ago. I study each image with the detached precision I'd use to review architectural plans. The angle of their bodies, the intimacy of their gestures, the way she looks at him, like he's the answer to a question she never asked me. My phone buzzes with a text from Callie. Working late again. Don't wait up. I respond. Love you too. Then I begin planning. Not revenge. Architects don't deal in revenge. We deal in structure, foundation, the careful arrangement of elements to create something that will endure. What I'm planning is a revelation, a controlled demolition that will expose the truth buried beneath 8 years of careful construction. Peterson sends me shift schedules, showing how perfectly Callie and Winters have aligned their hours, bank records revealing the hotel charges on her credit card, text messages recovered from her phone company, each one more damning than the last. Can't wait to see you tonight. M misses you. Told David I'm covering for Jenny again. He never questions it. What if he finds out about the baby? He won't. He trusts me completely. The final message, sent just hours before Sophia's birth. She's going to have your eyes. I can feel it. I print everything, organize it chronologically. Create a timeline that reads like a blueprint for betrayal. Then I do what I do best. I design something that will stand the test of time. The baptism is scheduled for next Sunday. Callie's parents will be there, mine too. Her sister from Portland, our friends from church, everyone who's watched us build what they thought was a solid marriage. They deserve to know the truth, and I'm going to show them. The church social hall buzzes with conversation and the clink of coffee cups against saucers. Pink and white streamers hang from the ceiling. Congratulations cards cover a table near the entrance, and someone has arranged a display of photos from Sophia's first few weeks. I've added my own contribution to the display, a laptop connected to the large screen typically used for church presentations. Everyone assumes it's for a slideshow of baby pictures, the kind of sentimental journey new parents inflict on their captive audience. They're not wrong. "She's absolutely beautiful," Mrs. Patterson from down the street gushes to Callie, who's holding Sophia near the baptismal font. "Those eyes, so striking." "David's grandmother had green eyes," Callie says smoothly, the lie flowing as easily as water. "Must be a recessive gene. I've never mentioned a green-eyed grandmother because I've never had one, but Callie has become an expert at rewriting history to fit her narrative." Dr. Winters stands near the back of the room with his wife, Rebecca, and their 2 young sons. He's wearing a navy suit and an expression of mild discomfort, like a man attending a party he'd rather skip. Occasionally, his eyes find Callie across the room, and I catch the brief flicker of something that passes between them. "David," Father Martinez approaches with his usual gentle smile. "Are you ready to begin the ceremony?" "Just a few more minutes," I say, checking my watch. "I'd like everyone to gather around first. I have something to share." The next 10 minutes pass in a blur of small talk and last-minute preparations. I help elderly relatives find seats, accept congratulations from colleagues, and make sure everyone has a clear view of the screen. When the room settles into expectant quiet, I move to the front and clear my throat. "Thank you all for being here today," I begin, my voice steady despite the hammering of my heart. "Before we begin Sophia's baptism, I wanted to share something special with you, a little journey through her creation." I click the laptop's trackpad, and the screen fills with an image of our bedroom, the pregnancy test on the nightstand showing 2 pink lines. "It all started here," I narrate, with what I thought was wonderful news. The next slide shows Callie's first ultrasound photo, dated 8 months ago. The audience murmurs appreciatively. Then the timeline begins. Hotel receipts appear on the screen, clearly marked with dates and times. Callie's credit card number is visible, along with charges for rooms booked during her supposed late shifts. The murmur turns to uncomfortable silence. Security camera footage follows. Callie and Dr. Winters entering the Marriott, their body language unmistakably intimate. Another angle shows them in the elevator, his hand on her waist, her lips close to his ear. "David!" Callie's voice cuts through the silence, sharp with panic. "What are you doing?" I don't answer. The slides continue. Text messages fill the screen, enlarged and highlighted. Each exchange more damning than the last, a chronological record of deception that spans months. "He's working late again. We have the whole night. Told him I'm covering Jenny's shift. Sometimes I think he's too trusting for his own good. What if the baby looks like you? We'll deal with that when we get there." Someone gasps. A chair scrapes against the floor. I can hear Father Martinez's sharp intake of breath, but I keep my eyes on the screen. The final slide appears. The DNA test results, the laboratory letterhead clearly visible, the conclusion stark and undeniable. Probability of paternity, 0%. The silence that follows is absolute. Even Sophia has stopped fussing, as if sensing the gravity of the moment. "This is the story of my daughter," I say quietly, my voice carrying easily in the hushed room. Or rather, the story of how I discovered she isn't. Callie's face has gone white. Dr. Winters is backing toward the exit, but his wife's hand on his arm stops him. Her eyes are wide with shock and growing rage. "You planned this," Callie whispers, clutching Sophia tighter. "You set this up." "I documented it," I correct. "There's a difference." Mrs. Patterson stands abruptly and walks out, shaking her head. Others follow, some shooting accusatory glances at Callie, others simply looking uncomfortable. Within minutes, half the room has emptied. Dr. Winters' wife approaches him, her voice low but carrying in the silence. "Is it true?" He doesn't answer, which is answer enough. She turns and walks away, their two sons trailing behind her with confused expressions. Father Martinez moves to the laptop and closes it, cutting off the display. "I think," he says carefully, "we should postpone the baptism." I nod and begin packing up my equipment. Around me, the remaining guests whisper among themselves, shooting glances at Callie, who stands frozen near the baptismal font. "How long have you known?" she asks as I wind up the laptop cord. "Long enough," I answer without looking at her. "David, please, let me explain." I finally meet her eyes, and she takes a step back at whatever she sees in mine. "There's nothing to explain," I say. "The pictures explain everything." I walk past her toward the exit, leaving her standing alone with a baby that isn't mine and a life that's about to crumble. The divorce papers are filed Monday morning. By Tuesday, Callie's lawyer calls mine with an offer to discuss arrangements. There are no arrangements to discuss. I've had 3 months to prepare, 3 months to organize every document, every receipt, every piece of evidence that proves what everyone now knows. The prenuptial agreement we signed before the wedding is ironclad, drafted by lawyers who understood that trust requires verification. "She's asking for spousal support," my attorney Janet Morrison informs me during our Wednesday meeting. "Claims she sacrificed her career for the marriage." "She sacrificed her career for adultery," I reply, sliding another folder across her desk. "Here are the employment records. She's been working full-time throughout our marriage. Her affair partner is her direct supervisor." Janet flips through the documents, her expression professionally neutral. "The custody arrangement?" "Already handled. I produced the signed waiver, witnessed and notarized. She agreed to supervised visitation only given the circumstances." "Circumstances?" "The child isn't mine. The biological father has outstanding malpractice suits and is currently under investigation by the medical board. Hardly a stable environment. What I don't mention is how easy it was to ensure Dr. Winters would be under investigation. A few anonymous tips to the right people, documentation of his pattern of relationships with subordinates, evidence of his using hospital resources for personal meetings. The medical board takes these things seriously, especially when presented with undeniable proof. "She's also requesting the house," Janet continues. I laugh, the sound sharp in the quiet office. "The house she filled with lies? She's welcome to it. I've already purchased something else. The new place is smaller, more manageable. Clean lines, open spaces, no shadows where deception can hide. I've been living there for 2 weeks, ever since I moved out of what I now think of as the crime scene." "David," Janet leans forward, her tone shifting to something more personal. "I have to ask, this level of preparation, the timing, the evidence gathering, when did you start planning this?" "The moment I saw the green eyes," I answer honestly. "Everything else was just execution." By Friday, the papers are signed and filed. Callie gets the house and its mortgage, half of our accumulated debt, and visitation rights to a child that isn't mine. I get my freedom, my dignity, and a clean slate. The local news picks up the story by the weekend. Not the details, privacy laws prevent that, but enough to paint the picture. Local architect exposes wife's affair at child's baptism becomes a viral sensation, shared across social media with commentary ranging from supportive to savage. I don't read the comments. I don't need to. Dr. Winters' medical license is suspended pending investigation. The medical board found evidence of multiple inappropriate relationships with staff members, misuse of hospital resources, and falsification of scheduling records to facilitate personal meetings. His wife files for divorce and moves back to her parents' house with their children. Callie loses her job when the hospital decides her presence creates a disruptive work environment. The other nurses, it seems, don't appreciate working with someone who's been conducting an affair with their supervisor while lying to her husband about paternity. She calls me once, 3 weeks after the papers are signed. "I know you hate me," she says, her voice thin and tired. "But Sophia needs her father," I interrupt. "Dr. Winters is welcome to step up any time. He won't even return my calls. That's not my problem." I hang up and change my number the next day. 6 months later, I'm sitting in a cafe in Prague, reviewing blueprints for a museum that will house artifacts recovered from a fire. There's something poetic about it, taking things damaged by destruction and giving them a new place to exist, to be appreciated for what they've survived rather than what they've lost. My phone buzzes with an email from Peterson at Precision Investigations. I'd asked him to keep tabs on the aftermath, partly from curiosity, partly from caution. Callie is working at a pharmacy in a small town 2 hours away. Dr. Winters is bartending while his license appeal works through the system. His wife received a substantial settlement and has filed a separate civil suit against the hospital for enabling the harassment of female employees. The internet has moved on to newer scandals, but in certain corners of social media, Callie's story persists as a cautionary tale. Screenshots of the baptism presentation appear in forums about infidelity, accompanied by discussions about DNA testing and prenuptial agreements. She's become a case study in consequence, a reminder that some lies are too big to survive exposure. I close the laptop and walk to the window. Prague sprawls below me, a city built on layers of history, each era leaving its mark on the landscape. Destruction and reconstruction, over and over, until something beautiful emerges from the ruins. I don't miss her. I never really had her to miss, just the illusion she'd constructed, the performance she'd maintained. What I miss is the simplicity of believing in something that was never real. My phone rings. An international number I don't recognize. "David?" The voice is hesitant, female. "This is Rebecca Winters, Alex's ex-wife." I'm quiet for a moment, processing. "How did you get this number?" "I hired an investigator. I wanted to thank you." "For what?" "For having the courage to tell the truth. For showing me what I was too afraid to see." We talk for 20 minutes. She tells me about the other women, the pattern of behavior that went back years, the gaslighting and manipulation that made her question her own perceptions. She thanks me again for the slideshow, for forcing everything into the light where it couldn't hide. "I've been thinking about what you did," she says before we hang up. "It wasn't revenge, it was architecture. You built something that could withstand scrutiny." After she hangs up, I sit in the quiet cafe and think about structures that endure. The ones that last aren't built on beauty or comfort. They're built on truth. They can be examined from any angle, tested under pressure, and they hold. Tomorrow I'll fly to Berlin, then to Milan, then back to the States to break ground on a new project. I'll design buildings that will outlast their creators, structures that serve their purpose without pretense or deception. I won't build another marriage. I won't risk another foundation that can be undermined by lies. But I'll build other things, monuments to honesty, testaments to the power of truth revealed. And sometimes, late at night in hotel rooms around the world, I'll remember the look on Callie's face when the screen filled with evidence of her betrayal. Not anger or surprise, but recognition. The look of someone who finally understood that some structures, once damaged, can't be repaired. They can only be demolished, so something honest can be built in their place. The cafe closes around me, and I pack up my blueprints. Outside, Prague's ancient streets stretch in all directions, each path leading somewhere new. I choose one at random and start walking, an architect moving through a city built on the bones of its own reconstructions, comfortable in the knowledge that some things are worth tearing down, even if you built them yourself. And that's the end of today's story. If you enjoyed it, please give this video a thumbs up and drop a comment below. Your support helps the algorithm push my content further. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. It really helps me keep creating more stories for you. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.